Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman, James Edwards. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use continues now. This is the broadcast for August the 6th in the year of our Lord 2025, hour 2 at 2, promoting God, family, country, protecting life, liberty, and property, and more. James Edwards with me. ThePoliticalCesspool.org is his incredible website with his weekly broadcast every Saturday night live or on demand at your fingertips, ThePoliticalCesspool.org. And while the mainstream haters of anything God, family, country call us the nexus of hate and anti-government in America, we absolutely agree with the nexus term. We are the nexus of promoting God, family, and country, and protecting life, liberty, and property. And we're the nexus of incredible commentary on topics of interest for you and your family. While at a summit in Mexico City, ladies and gentlemen, Democratic Illinois Representative Delia Ramirez told the audience while speaking in Spanish, quote, "I'm a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American," she said. So let me get this right. Mike Johnson doing the same thing what the Democrats are doing in Texas. He dismissed the House early because he didn't want them to vote yes to release the Epstein file stuff, right? So she leaves. He goes to hang out with war criminal, in my humble opinion, Benjamin Netanyahu. That's Mike Johnson and team. Well, she goes with another team to Mexico. And this literal representative, this lady from Illinois, literally said, hey, I'm a Guatemalan, proud before even an American. Now, the problem with Delia Ramirez is that she swore an oath to the supreme law of our land, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if she's an American citizen, but if she is, her citizenship should be renounced. If she is, she should be removed from Congress entirely with this. Now you say, wait a minute, Sam. Well, I'm going to rewind the discussion for a second before I turn it over to James and remind you of Natalie Maines of the Dixie Chicks. She was on foreign soil and she criticized Bush at one of her concerts, which she has every right to do. Well, they absolutely took her down. All the media quit playing the Dixie Chicks tunes. Then the Dixie Chicks caved and got rid of Dixie, another mistake. I mean, they're just melting down. Nevertheless, the point that I'm getting at is, so if you're a rock star or a country star, you can't criticize George Bush. They'll just shut you down. She's not even a representative, though. She's just an American with an opinion. Now you've got this lady that's, I don't know if she's foreign born or what. I'd have to dig into her. But she says she's Guatemalan before American when she's sworn an oath to the U.S. Constitution and she's duly elected in our country. And Mike Johnson dismisses her early to prevent a vote, and then she goes on foreign soil and literally betrays America? James, I don't even know where to start with this one.
It is pretty typical. That's the thing. I think if you asked just about any black congresswoman, particularly, Jasmine Crockett comes to mind. I mean, she is just entirely outlandish. I mean, what do you consider yourself to be first, a black woman or an American? Now, frankly, if you ask me the same thing, I might say something that sounds a little bit more like it. But the difference is, of course, to be white is to be an American, at least prior to, I mean, even as late as 1965, this country was 90% white. So I think of, globally, when most people thought about Americans until, the last couple of decades, you thought instinctively as, it was an outcrop of Europe. You thought of Europeans. So, but that's one thing. But then when you have these separate people groups that don't see themselves as part of a collective, they don't see themselves as part of an extension of, one family, this is where you begin to get the sort of Tower of Babel conflicts that have brought down many civilizations that have gone, that have made the folly of embracing multiculturalism and things like that. And so, yes, it is not surprising at all to see someone who is of Guatemalan heritage to go to a foreign country and say, I am a Guatemalan first and American second. What makes it interesting for her, of course, is that she is a member of the government and was elected, of course, to represent the United States. So that there is certainly a thorny problem there. She won't be called out on it, of course, and nor is this really anything unusual. But it is a problem when you have people who are not of one fabric with conflicting interests and agendas. Now,
is she an American citizen? Is kind of the first question, James, because if she's not, how do you get elected if you're not an American citizen? If she is, then should her citizenship be in question? Okay, yes, she's an American citizen by birth, they say. She was born on June 2nd, 1983, in Chicago, Illinois, making her a U.S. citizen, they say. She's the daughter of Guatemalan immigrants, they claim. But since she was born on U.S. soil, she holds U.S. citizenship, James. Again, this is part of the problem that I see. This has got to stop.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a problem, and it's definitely something that continues to foster discontent and conflict when you have, of course, I mean, this just goes back to the fundamental question of what a nation is. You know, a nation is a people who have a common ancestry, common traditions, common history, common heroes, common holidays, common folkways, common language, common faith.
Of course.
All right.
Sure.
So when you begin to see that fracture and you have all of these different rival people groups and communities fighting over resources and whose agenda and whose history and whose heroes and whose folkways and, you know, all are going to dominate, you know, it's a big problem on just a foundational level. But, that problem is, of course, exacerbated when you have members of the United States Congress and the state legislatures that are playing into this as well.
But when you go to foreign soil and do that, should your American citizenship be in question, number one? And number two, should you swore an oath of office to the U.S. Constitution, first and foremost, James, or you can't be elected. I mean, you swear an oath, right?
Well, I mean, again, I wouldn't have a problem. I don't want to be a hypocrite, and I think I have explained the differences. The differences were, of course, that this country was founded. If you look at the original founding documents of the founding fathers, they want to call us, white supremacists. I would never use that term to describe them. It was just very common and healthy and natural. I mean, when people created nation states, they created it for their posterity, and they created it for them. And so there was, in no uncertain terms, it was stated in all the original founding documents. I mean, even citizenship itself couldn't be was restricted. The franchise was restricted to free white men. So again, if someone asked me, do you consider yourself to be a European first or a white man first or an American first? Well, we could have a discussion about that. I think it is, though, something very different when you have frankly, these interlopers who were not involved with the founding to be members of the United States government, which is a privilege. Certainly a privilege that people like you and I would be hard-pressed to ever attain, to say the least, going to foreign countries and saying, even though, this country has given me these things that no other country, by the way, would give to people who were not of that stock. They've given me this privilege to represent them, but you know what? I'm going to be down here in Mexico. I consider myself, to hell with their generosity in allowing this, to hell with all that. I am a Guatemalan first, don't you know?
And to me, the question is the oath of office, though. Okay, whether she's a citizen or whatever, when you swear an oath to the U.S. Constitution, let's say that there's an issue that comes up where the allegiance to Guatemala is in conflict with the U.S. Constitution. Where does she lean? Guatemala, she just claimed.
Absolutely.
Well, my response to that, though, is hold on. You swore an oath, though.
Yeah, well, right? I guarantee there's no doubt about it. I mean, we don't have to, hypothesize or wonder or try to read between the lines. She said it in no uncertain terms. She considers, her Guatemalan heritage is going to trump, her duty to the United States. She's a Guatemalan first and an American second. So if there's ever an issue where
she's not a Guatemalan, though.
So the plot thickens, as you said. Yes, she was a naturally born or born here at least, and so that gave her citizenship. But if there's ever an issue that causes those two aspects of her identity to come into conflict, I mean, it's just going to be a no-brainer where she's going to fall, and it's not going to be on the side.
Well, and that's why I wonder: is this criminal? Because we go a step further when we swear an oath to the Constitution, swear an allegiance to the Constitution, one to become a U.S. citizen. She maybe didn't have to do that if she was born here. They just gave her citizenship or whatever. But, hey, I've talked to immigrants who have, become U.S. citizens, and they say it's pretty rigorous. You got to swear, allegiance to the United States and everything else. And, the list goes on and on. So anyway, very interesting. And when you become a representative, so Mike Johnson released her early to get that done, though. That's kind of interesting because he didn't want the Epstein files to be released there. He didn't want the Democrats to win, see.
So if he
anyway,
hadn't
now the DOJ, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so if Johnson hadn't have dismissed everyone early, she wouldn't have been able to make that speech in Mexico?
Well, she wouldn't have been there unless she bailed on her congressional duties.
Very interesting. So she was able to work that in as a result of the extended furlough. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, that's correct, sir. Just like, Mike Johnson's able to hang out with Benjamin Netanyahu on foreign soil. None of them are coming home to their constituents, I'll tell you that. The DOJ is in the news. We'll talk about it.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
The Department of Justice has initiated what they call a, quote, grand jury probe into accusations that the Obama administration and officials literally lied. They fabricated intelligence on the Russiagate scenario in the 2016 election. Attorney General Pam Bondi has asked a federal prosecutor to deal with the case. Now, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is the one that disclosed documents alleging that these officials intentionally manipulated the intelligence to claim that Trump was involved in the Russiagate scenario. Gabbard says it's a flat-out lie. It was intentionally perpetrated. And Gabbard has handed these documents to the DOJ and urged investigations into all individuals involved. The DOJ, which has created a strike force to review this evidence, of course, remains silent on the matter. Former President Obama, implicated by Gabbard, spoke at the Obama Foundation's 2024 Democracy Forum in Chicago, and President Trump has accused Obama as treason relating to these allegations. Sadly, James, I don't have any confidence we'll have any pay dirt. There'll be a lot of bluster, a lot of investigations. It'll be like every other investigation. 5 years later, tons of money spent by the taxpayers, and they'll be like, they really were unethical over there. It was really bad. Barack shouldn't have done that and everything else. But, no harm, no foul, James. Sadly, that's what I expect out of it.
This is the ultimate. I am much more in favor of a lot of the things the Trump administration has done and has been able to do than a lot in our ranks. But this is the ultimate Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football. This whole thing,
Amen.
I mean, truly, where you think there's this bluster, and some of it is probably true. It is probably true that some of this has come up to sort of be a sideshow distraction from the Epstein file, which Trump has just woefully mismanaged and botched in terms of the way he's dealt with this backlash and not being able to fulfill that promise for whatever reason. And there may even be good reasons for this. You and I had this discussion last week. It may even be that Trump is serving the greater good for reasons unbeknownst to us, and how he has decided not to release these and be more transparent. However, the way he's handled it has been terrible. So, but this, so I do believe that there could be an extent where Obama's being drugged back up into the news to sort of be a distraction. But this whole idea, lock her up, Hillary. I have no doubt that these people could be put in prison for very good reasons, but this will never go anywhere. I mean, the idea that Trump is going to put, his predecessors in prison, now they did try to do it with him, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, not going to happen, not even close. I wish it would, because I think it's needed, especially when President Trump accuses the former president of treason. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing bigger than that. I mean, that's a lot of bluster. That's a big accusation.
Either that's a big bunch of baloney from Donald, or there better be something at the end of this, prosecutory-wise, or I've got a big concern, James. How do you commit treason and no harm, no foul at the end of the day, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's the biggest accusation you could level at anyone.
All right, more than 2/3 of U.S. voters believe that officials connected to, quote, Russiagate scandal should be held accountable, according to a recent Rasmussen poll. 54% of respondents think former President Barack Obama's national security team committed serious crimes by promoting a false Trump-Russia narrative. 69% stated it is vital for the country and the country's survival that those who manipulated intelligence are prosecuted. So there's actually a lot of mojo behind this from the American people, James, according to the Rasmussen poll. The Department of Justice has reportedly created a grand jury investigation into these Obama officials. Kash Patel has hinted at further documentation being released related to this, and the issue of accountability spans what they call political divides. 56% of Democrats, 75% of Republicans are closely monitoring the situation, and they say the margin of error on this poll is like 3 or plus or minus points or whatever. Anyway, there's a lot of support for this one. So, if this is going to reach, real investigative and real prosecutory reality, we the people better keep up the pressure, James.
Alas, it would be a good thing. I mean, they're certainly keeping up the pressure on Epstein, but I haven't seen any movement on that either. So I think this is just one where you're just going to have to gird your loins and prepare for some disappointment on this. Again, thankful for the things that the administration has done and is doing that has been a benefit, that have been promises kept, but they don't all get kept, God knows. And this is just going to be one where you're not going to have a favorable outcome, I do feel.
Hey, James, are you talking to the moon, buddy?
Now, I'm trying to buy real estate up there.
Well, you better, because, maybe you shouldn't. You might have to leave your real estate if a Chernobyl occurs. Anyway, Bruno Mars is talking to the moon. But now President Trump, or the Trump administration, is set to announce a plan to build a nuclear reactor on the moon, aiming to launch it by 2030. Now, China, they say, also plans to send astronauts to the moon by 2030. Now, what's fascinating about this discussion is we claim that we've already sent astronauts there long ago. Of course, we can't do it again. And now we're planning to put a reactor on the moon. And the Chinese are saying we're going to go to the moon. And this is a very interesting. When's Donald going to release the moon docs, James?
That any talk of the moon goes back to the obvious question, which you just can't get around, and there's no sense in not mentioning it, and that is, did we ever actually really go? And as you said, Sam, I loved how you put it. We went in the 60s, apparently, so they say, but we've never been able to go back.
Well, we lost the technology and we lost all the videos. We don't have original videos or anything. We don't have anything related to it. But trust me, we went. And if you say that we didn't, or even speculate and wonder if we did or didn't, you're a horrible person, James. You're just a horrible person.
The question, the obvious question is, why would you never go back? You explore everywhere. Why wouldn't you want to explore the stars, but in the moon? And for any sort of value that it would have. There has to be some things you'd want to know. This is the human nature, the Faustian spirit, especially of the West, to go and to explore beyond the horizon, sail the distant oceans, climb the highest summits, go into outer space. Yeah, it's very fishy that they've never gone back. And, I guess, if they're not only going to go back, but build facilities up there within the next few years.
Dude, they're not building facilities. Look, they've been telling us since like 2015 they're going to go back, and they said it at like 2018, then 2021, and then 2024. Now it's 2030, and they keep pushing back the date, too. Why?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, so I was going to say, I guess we'll find out within the next couple of years whether or not they can or can't or will or won't. But as you said, it is another deadline. This is another Charlie Brown and Lucy type of deal. Yeah, we'll take you to the moon again.
Yeah, there you have it. Anyway, they say China also plans to send astronauts to the moon in 2030. So we're building the nuclear reactor, and they're just going to try to send somebody.
Well, there you go. Well, think about this. How are you going to think about what it would take, the amount of raw materials it would take to build a nuclear reactor, even on Earth? How are you going to transport all that stuff up there?
I don't know. Can we even run the thing in space? Will a nuclear reactor even run in space, James?
By itself? And what if it goes off and blows up the moon?
I'm just saying, it's just very strange stuff. And I don't want to get into all the conspiracy theory of it and everything else. I'm just saying it's very, very fascinating how we keep making these outrageous claims. I reported on my technology show the other day. They had this big Mars meteorite, big rock or whatever, that sold for like $5 million or whatever. And they, the big thing is it's from Mars and all this. My response is, how do they know it's from Mars, James?
Yeah.
How do you really know?
Exactly. Well, now they've got they've landed something there, right?
How do you know?
Now, well, that is the question.
But even if you land something on Mars, that doesn't mean that you know that a rock came from Mars.
Or that it could get up and get back. Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah.
And you say,
Sam,
we've looked at the molecular properties of this thing or whatever, and we've looked at the details, and we know that it's from Mars because we see the same thing. Yeah, but how do you know there's not another planet or another place that has those same things unless you've checked out everything in the universe? You don't have any idea, James.
Got to take their word for it, just like the moon thing. And listen, I hate to say that because
we've talked to experts, and here's the expert doc. You even have literally papers on dogs, James, proving their authenticity and their genes. Oh, I can't say genes. That would be horrible. Proving their DNA and all that kind of stuff. And so you look at that and you go, but they're going to just definitively tell you this rock came from Mars, buddy.
Well,
and then we're going to put a nuclear reactor on the moon. These people are psychotic. We don't even know what's going on in our own oceans, James.
That's exactly right. They say that more of space has been discovered than the depths and the farthest reaches of the ocean. So, again, they say.
All right, well, we're sending astronauts to the moon. We're sending our bureaucrats all over the world. Zero accountability. When we come back, I want to talk about the House Oversight Committee. They subpoenaed the Justice Department. We'll talk about it. This is weird as all get out. So basically, let everybody go early. Don't vote on releasing the Epstein documents, but let's go ahead and subpoena the Justice Department. Very interesting indeed. James Edwards with me, thepoliticalcesspool.org. I'm Sam Bushman, syndicated by the Loving Liberty Radio Networks and Liberty News Radio. I'm telling you, we're promoting God, family, and country, baby. We're asking hard questions. Can you stand the heat? Hang tight. Liberty Roundtable Live.
Proclaiming liberty across the land. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The Kremlin says Russian President Putin has had a constructive 3-hour meeting with President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, in Moscow. The talks come ahead of Mr. Trump's deadline for Russia to get a peace deal with Ukraine or potentially face crushing economic sanctions. And the president supports the redrawing of congressional maps in Texas, although not all of his fellow Republicans are on board.
The president says Democrats do redistricting, so the Republicans should too.
Yeah, they'll do it anyway. Why, if we stop over there, they would have done it anyway.
But several House Republicans are voicing their opposition. Axios reports that GOP lawmakers Kevin Kiley of California and Mike Lawler of New York want to ban mid-decade redistricting in all states. Representative Nicole Malliotakis of New York said it's wrong for either party to do it. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Senator Tom Cotton does not question reports of starvation in Gaza. What he does question is who is to blame.
You have the lies spread by Hamas and its willing dupes and apologists and sympathizers in Europe and the United States that Israel was guilty for starving poor children in Gaza, when in reality it's Hamas. It's always used food as a weapon.
The Arkansas Republican on the Salem Radio Network's Hugh Hewitt Show. Trump ally Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn makes it official. She is entering Tennessee's wide-open 2026 governor's race. That sets up a primary showdown with another Trump supporter, GOP Congressman John Rose, vying to succeed term-limited Republican Governor Bill Lee. Watching Wall Street, stocks trading higher this morning. The Dow is up about 112 points. The NASDAQ Composite Index ahead 102, and the S&P better by 26 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. I've been thinking, why does it feel like losing weight is harder than ever before? With mixed messages, fad diets, the quick fix injections, even magic coffee. I mean, it's overwhelming. Most people are exhausted trying to fight a battle they cannot win. If you feel this way, trust me, you're not alone. I used to feel that way too. But let me tell you, it's not your fault. Your body is working against you, and the longer you wait, the harder it gets. Do what I did. I called PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition 3 years ago. I lost 53 pounds. I feel terrific, and I've kept the weight off. Make the phone call that can change your life the way it has changed mine. They won't let you fail. Call 855-696-2020. That's 855-696-2020 to schedule your consultation. The first 11 callers who mentioned the word healthy will get 2 free weeks added to their weight loss package. Call now, 855-696-2020. Mention the keyword healthy to get 2 free weeks, or visit them at myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com.
Mom, you don't know anything about me anymore.
Honey, I know you're good at math. You don't like English. I know Ryan smiled at you yesterday at school. I know your favorite color is purple. And I know you don't like mushrooms. And who can blame you? I mean, mushrooms are a fungus, and people generally try to avoid funguses. Or is it fungi? I'm never quite sure. But, either way, I mean, penicillin is good.
Penicillin is a mold.
Huh. Well, I guess you're right. So you like penicillin, but not mushrooms.
No matter what you talk about, love is what they'll hear.
Mom, if we talk, will you be quiet?
Love to.
A thought from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Visit us at Mormon.org.
Step into the boots of the American West with Range Magazine, where grit meets grace. This is a front row seat to the stories, struggles, and triumphs of ranchers, farmers, and stewards of the land. From jaw-dropping photography to no-nonsense reporting, Range brings you the untold tales of life on the range. Whether you're a city dweller with a cowboy's heart or living life where the pavement ends, Range speaks to the soul of the West. Subscribe today at rangemagazine.com.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At CSPOA.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
know you're somewhere out there, somewhere far away. I want you back, I want you back. My neighbors think I'm crazy, but they don't understand. You're all I had, you're all I had. At night when the stars light up my room, I sit by myself talking to the moon.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Bruno Mars talking to the moon. Donald Trump thinking he's going to put a nuclear reactor on the moon. The Chinese are trying to get to the moon. We swear we went to the moon, but we can't go there again.
Well,
and now there's a Mars rock being sold for $5 million because we know it's from Mars for sure. This is so
Bruno
mixed
Mars
up. And then you
rock?
got the political servants of the people just scattered to the four winds, all international, trashing America as they go, partnering with criminals and everything else. It's insanity, James. And now we hear that Mike Johnson let the troops go because he didn't want the Epstein files to be released. But listen, the House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed the Justice Department for documents relating to the sex trafficking, investigation about Jeffrey Epstein. The Republican-led committee, they claim, also seeks depositions from Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and various former officials. These officials include former attorneys general Merrick Garland, William Barr, Jeff Sessions, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, and Alberto Gonzalez, as well as ex-FBI directors James Comey, Robert Mueller. They want depositions from everybody. This move, they say, comes as a, quote, bipartisan effort led by Democrats, which is interesting because they said it was a Republican-led committee. And some Republicans, they want transparency about this thing. And people aren't giving up on it, but I find it interesting. You dismiss the House so that they don't vote to release the Jeffrey Epstein files, and then you literally subpoena the Justice Department? I don't even know what's going on here, James, but I smell a rat.
I was just thinking, of all the things you could put on a moon, why a nuclear reactor would that be the first thing? But anyway, I digress. No, again,
what would
Sam,
you put on the moon first, James?
What would you put there first if you could actually?
He wants a nuclear reactor because I think then he can have power on the moon, and if you have power, you could stay longer, and you could use that as a, hey, to be the new space station, so to speak.
That actually,
and that's what I don't understand. Why haven't they had the moon as a space station for decades now? The space station is not even in space hardly, comparatively speaking, right?
Yeah, I think you can get that high almost in a commercial airliner. But, that does make sense now. That's the obvious answer. I don't know. It was so obvious I couldn't even consider it. Yeah, to do anything, you would first have to have power, and how are you going to get power? So that would make sense, assuming.
Yeah, because if you had power, you might get the internet in space, and then you could listen to Liberty Roundtable Live on the moon, buddy.
Well, it wasn't until well into my adulthood, I would say, as recently as the last 10 years, that I really became sort of skeptical about the whole official moon story. And I am not a quote unquote conspiracy theorist. It just is the more you look at it, the more it sort of stinks. And I want to believe it. It's a wonderful story. I'm certainly not as out there as some people are who say that there's not even a moon at all. But you can get all kinds of weird stuff going on.
All right.
There's just a lot of questions about that.
Well, they're not going to put statues on the moon, James, but they ought to. Maybe the first thing they ought to put there up there is like a statue of maybe like Robert E. Lee or something like that. They could, if he's not welcome on this planet, we could put him somewhere at least. Now, the National Park Service, James, announced that the statue of what they call Confederate General Albert Pike, dismantled by protesters back in 2020, will be restored and reinstalled in Washington, D.C. I guess they say it's going to be about a mile from the White House. They're going to get it done in October 2025, James.
Yeah, that's good news. That is a very good news. This is something that we can give Trump credit for, and this is something that I like to see. I mean, it's interesting, of course, that you would have this of Pike in the district in Washington. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, though, he was actually born in Boston, although he did fight as an officer for the Confederacy. He actually led a regiment of Indians in Arkansas who sided with the Confederacy. The last Confederate general to ever withdraw from the field was a Indian by the name of Stan Watty. He was a general, and he was the last Confederate general to actually surrender. And, he was an American Indian. But Albert Pike did lead a regiment of Indians in Arkansas that was sort of the frontier back then, and a lot of the Indians were siding with the Confederacy because, of course, the United States so they had a conflict. They'd had a conflict.
Yeah,
with the
they
United
abused
States
the Indians, then they abused the Southerners, then they abused everybody else, right?
I guess the Indians thought, well, the Confederates government couldn't be any worse than the United States. But that was Albert Pike's sort of claim to fame. Born in Boston, he did die in Washington, so I guess that would be the connection to D.C. But of all the places to restore Confederate statue, it's interesting that it would happen in D.C. I'm glad to see it. This is certainly a good thing. It's a feel-good story. Trump this is the second thing Trump has done to improve D.C. since January when he whitewashed, if you'll pardon the term, pressure washed, that Black Lives Matter that had been in these big yellow block letters down one of the main thoroughfare streets there near the White House. That's been returned to asphalt, and now you've got a Confederate general going back up.
Are we going to dig up Nathan Bedford Forrest and put him back in Tennessee? Right down there downtown, Well,
I'll tell you what, the demographics of Washington, D.C. and Memphis are about similar. I think Washington's like 91% black, so that would, if you can do it there, you can do it anywhere. The other 9% are the Congress people who live there.
All right, Sweeney, everybody's talking about it. Now Lizzo said, hey, my jeans are black. And I guess my response is, they want this to be a big old racist discussion. To me, it was a brilliant marketing tactic. To me, the truth wins. You can debate what jeans it's about and everything else, but if you're black, can't you have good jeans too, James?
Is that
look at Ben
G
Carson
or J? Yeah, no.
Look at Ben Carson.
That was the whole thing, though. I mean,
if he puts on the Calvin Kleins and he's a surgeon, does he have good jeans?
There's about 10,000 ads in marketing campaigns that have talked about blacks being proud of being blacks, either because of their physical features or whatever history or culture they're laying claim to. The only reason, if it had been, Rihanna, for instance, Rihanna has great genes, and this had been, the American Eagle. It had just been the smartest, most wonderful ad campaign in the history. It would have just been lauded by the press. I mean, of course, the only reason that this
is the reason so many black people are doing so well in basketball, and it's overwhelmingly black in the NBA because they have good genes, or what?
There you go. Well, I mean, again, the only reason
Calvin Klein needs to partner with the basketball players and get that done, buddy.
But I tell you, Sydney Sweeney didn't back down. American Eagle didn't back down. We talked about this last week on Liberty Roundtable. I talked about it on TPC last Saturday. It is one of the most brilliant marketing campaigns ever because they knew it would cause this backlash, and they are laughing all the way to the bank, and it has done nothing but increase the profile. A lot of people really like this. I mean, the media hates it. A lot of real people, actual people, consumers, they're not, a ton of stuff on social media where they think it's just great.
Hey, James, what do you think if we create a Take Me to the Moon campaign? We could ask Elon Musk and Donald Trump to take us to the moon, buddy.
There's that.
Would you like to go to the moon, James?
Isn't that Fly Me to the Moon by Sinatra? Maybe that should be your outro music, but
think about that. Wouldn't you like to, go to the moon?
I don't even like to travel to Mississippi anymore, but
James just wants to stay in Tennessee, man. He wants to stay in Elvis country, where it's super safe,
Yeah, right. I've gone all the way back to like our feudal ancestors, where I don't travel. I try not to travel more than 5 miles radius from my house anymore. But no, I do get out a lot, and I do travel a lot. But I've grown to like it less and less as I get older. The moon might be a stretch these days. I'd like to see the first person get there, though, and then we can talk about it.
Well, and that's the interesting thing is I'd like to see us document the first person to get there. I'd like to see how the communication works. I'd like to see how the photos turn out and everything else. I mean, we should have rock solid photos and audio and everything else from the moon and everything else. I mean, it's only 238,000 miles up there,
Dude,
James.
You can go to Grok now or Grok, however Twitter's AI
Grok,
that got into so much trouble when he said he was Hitler last month. But you can make, I'm telling you, you can make these AI created images and they are 100% real. I mean, that's just something I can do on my computer.
Pardon the pun, going to the moon, deep fakes, James.
They look so real. And so if I
James
can do that from my
fly.
computer for free, I know that they can fake anything now. Yeah, I'm turning it into a public.
James has to
go
fly. I'll finish the radio show. Hang tight, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Liberty Roundtable Live.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back. Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines. Build a strong cyber attack response. Secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook or call 385-446-5500 now.
This is a battle between truth and deceit. A battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. I'm just telling you, building a nuclear reactor on the moon. When I don't even see that we can get to the moon. I'd like to see President Trump, before we talk about a reactor on the moon, I'd like to have him prove that we can go to the moon. The problem is that James Edwards wisely pointed out right before the pause, they can make these deep fake videos and stuff. I don't know how we can even know what's going on in the world now. And as fake news takes the cake everywhere, whether we went to the moon or not, we can't know. The Federal Reserve needs to be abolished, but they act like that's the holier than thou. Donald Trump can't touch the Federal Reserve. By golly, it's independent. But Andrew Jackson shut that clown show down, and Donald Trump should do the same. Nevertheless, I digress. Trump's too busy now imposing more tariffs. Trump's imposing additional tariffs. An additional 25% on India, lifting the total rate to 50%. And Trump basically says, hey, it's necessary because the country of India, they're buying, oil from Russia, or they're doing this and that and whatever. And so we're going to punish them. And in my opinion, this is out of control. I understand President Trump loves tariffs. He thinks tariffs are the way to go. He believes they're founding father-esque. They're to the traditional way of the proper role of government. I agree with him. 100% agree. But I also understand the supreme law of our land. And I'm hoping President Trump does, but it sounds like he doesn't, or he doesn't care. Not sure which, Not here to criticize the president, but here to call a spade, which is this. Congress is responsible for tariffs. Tariffs are taxes. And you can play games and try to wordsmith your way out of it, but that isn't going to get it done, in my humble opinion. The fact is, anytime you make me pay indirect or directly for goods and services or for whatever, it's a tax. And Congress is responsible for taxes and tariffs. Go look at your Constitution, Article 1. It's the congressional responsibility, not the courts, not the president. And so, I like President Trump taking the lead on tariffs, but if Congress doesn't codify them, and if Trump's all over the map, he's creating, in my opinion, a moral hazard. What do I mean by that? He's creating confusion in the marketplace. Let's say that I'm a business, and because of the outrageous tariffs in China, I move my products to India for production. Can't move them to the United States. The supply chain's not there. The raw materials aren't there. So I move it to India. Now all of a sudden, hey, I just spent a ton of money moving my production to India, and now we're going to have big old Indian tariffs or India tariffs. To where, what do I do now? And I can't count on product. I don't know what the prices will be. I can't set prices to my customers. Oftentimes there's a huge lead time when it comes to building products, and I can't set that lead time and have stability in the marketplace. That's why I say it becomes a moral hazard. Anyway, so President Trump imposing another 25% tariffs, making it total 50 on India. I'm for the tariffs because I believe they're constitutional. But we need to get rid of the internal IRS, and we need to get Congress back in session. These clowns left July 23rd, and they won't be back in session till September the 2nd. How long is that, man? It's like almost 6 weeks. They're gone. At least 5 weeks, a little bit more. Okay, why are they gone? I mean, we've got critical things to accomplish here, folks. And they're gone. And now Trump's just basically deciding on tariffs all by himself. I think it's a bad omen, a bad plan. We need to follow the Constitution is the whole point, ladies and gentlemen. President Trump has expressed grievances against big banks as well, accusing them of discrimination. Speaking to CNBC, Trump mentioned personal issues with J.P. Morgan Chase and Bank of America, stating that J.P. Morgan Chase asked him to move large sums of money, and Bank of America refused his deposit request after he took control of the presidency. These claims follow a Wall Street Journal report about a potential Trump administration crackdown on banks discriminating against conservatives. The draft of an executive order by President Trump targets, quote, unspecified banks, but highlights a case involving Bank of America and a Ugandan Christian organization. So this is the deal. Why are we doing drafts of executive orders? Why can't we let Congress deal with this? Okay, Congress should be responsible here, especially when all funding in the United States government is supposed to originate in the House. Now you say, well, President Trump sees that the banking has been unfair to conservatives. That's a fact. James Edwards, who was just on with me, had his credit card accounts or his merchant accounts suspended. There's no doubt there's been a massive crackdown. We've had PayPal suspended and had to push to get our PayPal accounts back. And, we're very, very, very familiar with the point Trump's making here. My problem with the whole discussion, though, is that it's not really a presidential question. If it's really a problem, the Justice Department ought to be looking into this. Oh, the problem is we don't trust the Justice Department. I get it. That's the problem in America, right? Do you trust Trump and his executive orders? What about Congress? What about the Justice Department? What about, okay, and we go on and on. But are we going to just basically argue with bankers and say they're not fair to conservatives and argue with the chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, say he's an idiot and a clown and a bad guy because he won't lower interest rates? And all we're doing is playing games around the reality that the Federal Reserve is an unconstitutional criminal banking cartel and needs to be shut down immediately. And to those of you who say that it can't be done, Andrew Jackson did it. To those who say, well, it's been around for 100 years, it'll create, a problem in the market if we do it. I don't agree. I understand President Trump's expressed these grievances against big banks, and I agree. But look, if you're just going to piddle around the edges and not call fake news, and not call it a spade, I hate to say it, you almost get what you deserve, right? All right. Anyway, before the end of the hour, I want to get to this as well. ICE. So ICE's, I wanted to kind of clarify to make sure people understand. We're talking about ICE, Immigration Service, right? ICE's strategy in New York under President Trump and his second term involves a simpler approach compared to other regions, with many immigrants now being detained during routine check-ins at federal immigration offices or courts in Manhattan. Now you say, well, Sam, what's the problem with that? Recent data indicates a, quote, spike in such arrests, with at least 2,365 immigrants detained in the New York City area from January to June, right? Marking a 200% increase from the previous administration. While the tactic focuses on avoiding, quote, large-scale raids, concerns about due process have escalated due to the nature of these, quote, check-in related tensions. ICE's focus under Trump's directive has shifted towards not only targeting criminals, but dealing with undocumented people. The undocumented people are now starting to outstrip the criminals in terms of who's being detained and or deported. This shift is evidenced by the number of individuals with no criminal records now surpassing those with them in terms of arrest. Additionally, the demographic most affected includes people from Ecuador, El Salvador, Venezuela, Honduras, Mexico. Legal challenges and debates are plentiful about this. Well, here's my response to this whole thing, folks. I think it's a bad idea. What they're saying is, let's just chill. Let's, bring these people in or whatever, tell them they have to come for their hearings, and then we'll just get them when they come for their hearings. I think it's a horrible strategy. It's lazy. It's not doing law enforcement justice, in my opinion. And most importantly, what it's doing is this. It's sending a message to the rest of the illegals. Do not come in for your typical, whatever, arraignment, I don't know what it's called, for your assessment of your, plea to stay in America or whatever the case may be. Don't go, because if you do, you're going to get taken out for doing so. I think that's a bad deal. I think that's a bad precedent we're setting. Much better to start to craft a justice and a mercy plan. A justice plan says hardcore criminals go to prison and or are deported. People who have not broken the law, I get that they're criminals because they broke the law to get here. But if that's their only offense, right, then I think we need to have a little bit more kid gloves when it comes to this. Because we'll develop cooperation when we do this, right? The good people will be like, hey, we don't want criminals here either, of any kind. I don't care what color they are or where they come from. We don't want criminals harassing the good, honest citizens. The whole purpose of government is to protect us, right? That's the deal. And I'm just saying to you right now that if you start arresting people when they come in for their routine deals, you are going to create blowback and lack of trust like you've never seen before. I'm just telling you. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Thanks for being alongside for the ride. 2 hours in the can. Hopefully they were educational and entertaining. James Edwards doing a phenomenal job. ThePoliticalCesspool.org. Check out his award-winning broadcast. I'm Sam Bushman, syndicated by LibertyNewsRadio.com and the Loving Liberty Radio Network, LovingLiberty.net. Download the iPhone or the Android app, or listen online at LovingLiberty.net. I'm Sam Bushman. God save the Republic of the United States of America.